On the other side of the world, there is a country called Happy Land, where the trees are 100 feet tall, and where the sun shines hotter than here. And, as you might very well expect, everybody who lives in Happy Land is as happy as the day is long. Wherever you go, you see smiling faces all around. It's such a happy place that even the flowers seem to smile in Happy Land. And as well as all the people being happy, all the animals in Happy Land are happy as well. If you've never seen a mouse smile, or a cat, or a dog, or even a worm, you go to Happy Land. Now, this story is about somebody who lives there, and who happens to be called Mr. Happy. Mr. Happy is fat, and round, and happy. He lives in a small cottage beside a lake at the foot of a mountain and close to a wood. One day, while Mr. Happy was out walking through the tall trees in those woods near his home, he came across something which was really rather extraordinary. There, in the trunk of one of the very tall trees, was a door. Not a very large door, but nevertheless, a door. A small, narrow, yellow door. I wonder who lives here, thought Mr. Happy to himself. And he turned the handle of that small, narrow, yellow door. The door wasn't locked, and it swung open quite easily. Mr. Happy squeezed his rather large body through the rather thin doorway. Just inside the small, narrow yellow door was a small, narrow, winding staircase leading downwards. The stairs went round and round and down and down and round and round and down and down. Eventually, after a long time, Mr. Happy reached the bottom of the staircase. He looked around and saw, there in front of him, another small, narrow door, but this one was red. Mr. Happy knocked at the door. "Who's there?" said a voice. Sad, squeaky sort of voice. "Who's there?" Mr. Happy pushed open the red door slowly. And who do you think he saw? There, sitting on a stool, was somebody who looked exactly like Mr. Happy, except that he didn't look happy at all. In fact, he looked downright miserable. "Hello, Mr. Happy." "I'm Mr. Happy." "Oh, how are you indeed?" sniffed the person who looked like Mr. Happy but wasn't. "Well, my name's Mr. Miserable, and I'm the most miserable person in the world." "Why are you so miserable?" asked Mr. Happy. "Because I am," replied Mr. Miserable. "How would you like to be happy, like me?" asked Mr. Happy. "I'd give anything to be happy," said Mr. Miserable. "Well, I'm so miserable I don't think I ever could be happy," he added miserably. Mr. Happy made up his mind quickly. "Follow me," he said. "Where to?" asked Mr. Miserable. "Don't argue," said Mr. Happy. And he went out through the small, narrow red door. Mr. Miserable hesitated, and then followed. Up and up the winding staircase they went. Up and round and round and up and round and round and up until they came out through the yellow door and into the wood. "Follow me," said Mr. Happy again, and they both set off through the wood back to Mr. Happy's cottage. Mr. Miserable stayed in Mr. Happy's cottage for quite some time. And during that time, the most remarkable thing happened. Because he was living in Happy Land, Mr. Miserable, ever so slowly, stopped being miserable. The corners of his mouth stopped turning down, and ever so slowly started turning up. And eventually, Mr. Miserable did something that he'd never done in the whole of his life. He smiled. And then he chuckled, which turned into a giggle, which became a laugh. A big, booming, hearty, huge, giant, large, enormous laugh. And Mr. Happy was so surprised that he started to laugh as well. Both of them laughed and laughed. They laughed. They laughed until their sides hurt and their eyes watered. Mr. Miserable laughed and laughed and laughed. And Mr. Happy laughed and laughed and laughed. And because they were laughing so much, everybody who saw them started laughing as well. Even the birds in the trees started to laugh at the thought of somebody called Mr. Miserable who just couldn't stop laughing. That really is the end of the story. Except to say that if ever you feel as miserable as Mr. Miserable, well, you know exactly what to do, don't you? Just turn the corners of your mouth up. Go on. Try it. Mr. Silly lives in Nonsense Land, which is a very funny place to live. You see, in Nonsense Land, everything is as silly as it can be. In Nonsense Land, the trees are red and the grass is blue. Isn't that silly? In Nonsense Land, dogs wear hats. And do you know how birds fly in Nonsense Land? No, they don't fly forward. Really is a very silly place indeed. Which, of course, is why Mr. Silly lives there. Mr. Silly, in fact, lives in quite the silliest-looking house you've ever seen in your whole life. Have you ever seen a sillier-looking house than this? Now, this particular story is all about the Nonsense Cup. You see, in Nonsense Land each year they hold a competition. And the cup is awarded to whoever has the silliest idea of the year. Mr. Silly had never won the cup, but each night, lying in his bed, he dreamed about winning it. In order to win the Nonsense Cup, Mr. Silly realized that he would have to think up something remarkably silly. He pondered over the problem one morning at breakfast. Incidentally, you may be interested to know what Mr. Silly was having for breakfast. He was having a cup of coffee, into which he put a spoonful of marmalade. After that, he had a cornflake sandwich. And to finish, he had a boiled egg. But
Being Mr. Silly, he ate the shell as well. Now, isn't that a silly breakfast? Anyway, this particular breakfast time, Mr. Silly was thinking how to win that cup. He remembered 2 years ago when Mr. Foolish won the cup. Mr. Foolish, who was a friend of Mr. Silly's, had won the cup by inventing a car. It was quite a normal car, apart from one thing. Isn't that silly? Mr. Silly thought and thought. He even had another cup of coffee with marmalade. That didn't help either. So, he decided to take a walk. On his walk, Mr. Silly met a chicken wearing Wellington boots and carrying an umbrella. Wouldn't it be silly if you didn't wear Wellington boots and carry an umbrella, he said to the chicken. Meow, said the chicken. Because animals in Nonsense Land don't make the same noises as they do in your country. It was in the middle of Mr. Silly's walk that he had his idea. It was a beautifully silly idea. Quite the silliest idea he'd ever had. He hurried into town and bought himself a pot of paint and a paintbrush. Huge crowd assembled in the city square to see who was going to win the cup. The king of Nonsense Land mounted the specially built platform. One of the silliest ideas of the year is by Mr. Muddle, the farmer. He has managed to grow, of all things, a square apple. The crowd clapped as the square apple was held up by Mr. Muddle for everybody to see. He felt sure that he was going to win. However, said the king, and Mr. Muddle's face fell, we have had an even sillier idea entered by Mrs. Nincompoop. It was a teapot, quite the silliest teapot there had ever been. The crowd broke into thunderous applause. I therefore have great pleasure, announced the king, in presenting the Nonsense Cup to... Just then he looked up and stopped in astonishment. Now, in the middle of the square, there is a tree, which had always been there, and it was at this tree that the king was looking in astonishment. What, he cried, has happened to that tree? Everybody turned to look. The tree had green leaves. Bright green leaves. Not red leaves, like all the trees in Nonsense Land, but green. There was a gasp from the crowd. It was me, piped up Mr. Silly. I painted all the leaves green last night when you were all asleep. A green tree, exclaimed the king. Who ever heard of a green tree? A green tree, shouted the crowd. How silly! And they started to applaud wildly. Mr. Silly smiled modestly. The king held up his hands. I think, he said, that this is the silliest idea I have ever heard of. And therefore, I award the Nonsense Cup to Mr... What did he say his name was? To Mr. Silly. The crowd cheered and cheered. Mr. Silly went quake with pride. And a bird, perched high up in the branches of the silly green tree, looked down. Woof, it said, and flew off, backwards. Poor Mr. Jelly was frightened of everything and anything. At the slightest little thing, he would quiver and tremble and shake, turn to jelly. So it's not really surprising to find that Mr. Jelly lives as far away from anybody as he can. In the middle of a wood, miles and miles from anywhere. This story begins one morning when Mr. Jelly was asleep. It was a beautiful autumn morning. The sun was shining, the leaves on the trees had turned to a glorious red, and the wind stirred gently in the treetops. A single leaf fell gently from the tree right outside Mr. Jelly's house and quietly brushed against his bedroom window as it fell. Mr. Jelly woke with a start. What? What's that terrible noise? Oh, heaven! Oh, the house is falling down. It's an earthquake. It's the end of the world. Oh! And he hid under the bedclothes, trembling with fright. After an hour, by which time he realized that his house wasn't falling down and that there wasn't an earthquake and the world wasn't coming to an end, Mr. Jelly peeped out from under the bedclothes. Phew, he said. Oh, thank goodness for that. And he got up and went downstairs to make his breakfast. After breakfast, Mr. Jelly thought he'd go for a walk. He was walking through the woods which surround his house when a worm poked its head out of the ground. Morning, said the worm cheerfully. Mr. Jelly nearly jumped out of his skin. What? Who's there? Then he saw the worm. Oh, good heavens, it's a snake, a man-eating snake. Oh, I'm going to be eaten alive. And he jumped up into a tree. What a performance, commented the worm, and went back into his hole. After an hour, Mr. Jelly felt brave enough to climb down from the tree and continue his walk. Eventually, he came out of the other side of the wood and into a field. It was an empty field. Or was it? In the long grass in the middle of the field, unseen by Mr. Jelly, there was a tramp enjoying a sleep in the autumn sunshine. Mr. Jelly picked his way cautiously through the grass. The tramp, fast asleep, snored. What was that? What was that? Shrieked Mr. Jelly. It's a lion. I heard it growl. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, dear me, a huge lion with enormous teeth. A huge lion with enormous sharp teeth that's going to bite me in two. A huge, ferocious lion with enormous sharp teeth that's going to bite me in two, if not three. And he fainted. All this commotion awakened the tramp, who yawned, stretched, sat up, and saw Mr. Jelly lying on the ground beside him. Oh, dear, he said. For he was a kindly tramp. Oh, dearie me. And he picked up Mr. Jelly and placed him gently in the palm of his hand. Mr. Jelly came to and sat up, rubbing his eyes. And then he saw the tramp's face looking at him. Oh, disaster. Oh, he screamed. Oh, calamity. It's a giant, an ogre. Oh, gracious, he's going to have me for breakfast. My, said the tramp gently. You're a nervous little chap now, aren't you? What's your name? It's Mr. Jelly. Mr. Jelly. Stammered Mr. Jelly. Now, I used to be nervous like you, said the tramp, but I learned how not to be. Would you like me to tell you the secret? Mr. Jelly quivered and shook and said, yes, please. It's very simple, continued the tramp. All you have to do is to count up to 10, and you'll find that whatever's frightening you isn't quite so frightening after all. Then he set Mr. Jelly gently down on the grass. Now remember, he said to Mr. Jelly, count to 10. And off he went. Mr. Jelly thought that it would be a very good idea if he went home immediately. Back across the field he went. Back through the woods he went. He was walking through the woods when he stepped on a little twig. Snap! Went the twig. Mr. Jelly jumped twice his own height in terror. What's that? He shrieked. That terrible snapping noise. It's a tree falling down. It's going to crush me to pieces. Oh, it's a crocodile hiding in the bushes, snapping its teeth. Oh, did Arthur? More. Then he stopped, took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he said. And he saw that what had gone snap was a twig, a silly old twig. Phew, he said. Mr. Jelly had almost reached his house when a leaf drifted gently down from a tree on top of him. Oh, help! Police! Murder! He screamed. I'm being kidnapped! Oh, it's ruffians with guns! They're going to... And then he stopped. He took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then he saw that what had fallen on him was only a leaf. Nothing but a leaf. A stupid red leaf. It works, he said out loud in wonderment. And you know, it did. He never shrieks or shouts or screams or quivers or shakes or trembles anymore. In fact, he's become quite firm. And he never hides under the bedclothes. Well, not very often, anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One night, 2 days before Christmas, it started to snow. All night it snowed and snowed and snowed and snowed and snowed. Millions and billions and trillions of big, white, soft snowflakes covered the whole wide world. When morning came, it was quite amazing to see just how much snow had fallen. All the houses, all the trees, all the roads, and all the fields were covered. It was almost as if a huge white blanket had been gently laid over everything. Everywhere you looked was white. And then the sun came out. And so did the children. They were all dressed up and muffled up, wearing scarves and woolies and gloves and boots so that they wouldn't catch cold. All the children were so excited to see so much snow, which isn't surprising, really, because there was more snow than there'd ever been before. Some of them went on their sledges, racing down the hills. Some of them, who didn't have sledges, threw snowballs at each other. One little boy even made a snowball that was as big as himself. And some of the children made snowmen. Then it was Christmas Eve. The children all went home early so that they could go to bed early, so that they could get up early to see what Father Christmas had brought them. But that particular Christmas Eve, Father Christmas was in trouble. And the trouble was that it had snowed so much that Father Christmas was stuck. Well, and truly stuck. There was so much snow that his reindeer simply couldn't pull his sleigh, piled high with all the presents that he had to deliver to all the children. Oh dear, thought Father Christmas to himself. Oh dear me, what am I to do? He sat down on his sack of toys and thought how he could manage to deliver all the presents to all the children before they woke up on Christmas morning. Oh, dear me, he said out loud and sighed. Now, it just so happened that Father Christmas had got himself stuck just beside a snowman which one of the children had built. And that gave him an idea. A good idea. A very good idea. A very good idea indeed. How would you like to help me? He asked the snowman. But of course the snowman didn't answer because snowmen can't talk, can they? Of course I'll have to use some of my magic to bring him to life, thought Father Christmas to himself. So he tugged his white beard 3 times and muttered some Father Christmassy magic words into it. Suddenly, you might almost say magically, the snowman did come to life. Hello, Father Christmas, said Mr. Snow, which was the snowman's name. You look sort of stuck, if you ask me, which you haven't, but I'll say so anyway. And if you ask me again, I'd say you need a sort of helping hand, if you know what I mean, which you probably do, because that's probably why you brought me to life, which you certainly did. So can I be of any assistance? Mr. Snow, you might have gathered, was a rather talkative sort of snowman. Exactly, beamed Father Christmas. Let's get started. And start they did. Mr. Snow gave Father Christmas an enormous push, and off they went. And they divided the work between them. It was Mr. Snow's job to see that all the right toys for all the right boys and all the right toys for all the right girls were put into all the right sacks. It was Father Christmas's job to make sure that he took all the right sacks down all the right chimneys and delivered all the right toys to all the right boys and all the right toys to all the right girls. Mr. Snow and Father Christmas made sure that Susan got her teddy bear. Mr. Snow and Father Christmas made sure that Peter got his train. Mr. Snow and Father Christmas even made sure that little Jane got her squeaky pink elephant to play with in the barn. And then, all of a sudden, they discovered that between them, they'd finished. Oh, I'd like to thank you very much indeed for helping me deliver all the right toys to all the right boys, said Father Christmas, shaking Mr. Snow by the hand. No, not forgetting all the right toys to all the right girls, replied Mr. Snow, shaking Father Christmas by the hand. And now, I'd better turn you back into a snowman again, said Father Christmas. Thank you again. And goodbye. My pleasure, smiled Mr. Snow. And do you know, from that Christmas to this Christmas, Father Christmas always chooses a snowman to help him. So, if you ever build a snowman, you'd better make sure that you build him properly. Because who knows? He might be Mr. Snow. Mr. Bounce was very small, and like a rubber ball. He just couldn't keep himself on the ground. He bounced
bounced all over the place. And, as you can imagine, that made things rather difficult. Last week, for instance, Mr. Bounce was out walking when he came to a farm. He climbed over the farm gate, and you can guess what happened next, can't you? He jumped down from the gate and bounced right into the duck pond. Quack, went the ducks. The other morning, for instance, Mr. Bounce was in bed. He woke up and jumped out of bed, and you can guess what happened next, can't you? He bounced right out of his bedroom door and all the way downstairs. Bouncity, 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 bounce. Well, that happens quite often, which probably explains why Mr. Bounce leaves his bedroom door open every night. After he'd picked himself up, Mr. Bounce went and sat down to think. Mr. Bounce bounced off the chair and banged his head on the ceiling. Ouch, said Mr. Bounce. Oh, this is ridiculous, Mr. Bounce thought to himself, rubbing his head. I must do something to stop all this bouncing about. He thought and thought. I know, he thought. I'll go and see the doctor. So, after breakfast, Mr. Bounce set off to the nearest town to see the doctor. He was passing a tennis court when he tripped over a pebble. And he bounced right onto the court where two children were playing tennis. And you can guess what happened next, can't you? The children didn't realize that Mr. Bounce wasn't a tennis ball and started hitting him with their tennis racket. Backwards and forwards over the net. Oh! Ow! Ouch! Poor Mr. Bounce. Eventually, one of the children hit Mr. Bounce so hard, he bounced right out of the tennis court. Mr. Bounce bounced off down the road towards the town. Oh, dear, he said, feeling very sorry for himself. I've been bounced black and blue. A bus was coming down the road. Mr. Bounce decided that the safest place for him to be would be on it. He got on and sat down, but still feeling more than a little sorry for himself. The bus drove into town. The bus stopped right outside the doctor's. Mr. Bounce stepped down from the bus and onto the pavement and bounced in through the doctor's window. Dr. Make-You-Well was sitting at his desk enjoying his mid-morning cup of coffee. Mr. Bounce sailed through the open window. Splash went the coffee. Ow! Squeaked Mr. Bounce. Coffee was rather hot. Good heavens! Exclaimed Dr. Make-You-Well. After the doctor had fished Mr. Bounce out of his coffee and set him on some blotting paper to dry out, he listened to what Mr. Bounce had to tell him. So, you see, said Mr. Bounce finally, you must give me something to stop me bouncing about all over the place quite so much. Pondered the doctor. After some thought, Dr. Make-You-Well went to his medicine cabinet and took out a pair of tiny red boots. This should do the trick, he told Mr. Bounce. Heavy boots. That should stop the bouncing. Oh, thank you, Dr. Make-You-Well, said Mr. Bounce, and walked home wearing his red boots. No, not bounced, walked.
That night, Mr. Bounce went to bed wearing his heavy boots. And then he went to sleep. The following morning, he woke up, yawned, stretched, and bounced out of bed. And he went straight through the bedroom floorboards. And finished up in the kitchen. It was one of those beautiful summer mornings that everybody likes to see. In Forget-Me-Not Cottage, the owner was fast asleep, Mr. Forgetful. He was having a dream. Then the sun streaming through the windows woke up Mr. Forgetful. He yawned, and stretched his arms, and tried to remember what he'd been dreaming about. But of course he couldn't. Because Mr. Forgetful can't remember anything. Anything at all. Ever. Mr. Forgetful got out of bed and went to wash his face. But he'd forgotten where the bathroom was in his house. Do you know what he did? He walked into the wardrobe. Oh, silly me, he giggled to himself. Eventually, of course, Mr. Forgetful found his bathroom and washed his face. He even remembered to clean his teeth. Then he went downstairs to make himself some breakfast. He toasted some bread. But, of course, he forgot about it. And it was burned. He boiled himself an egg. But, of course, he forgot about it, and it was hard-boiled. Mr. Forgetful had burnt toast and hard-boiled eggs for breakfast every day. It was such a lovely day, Mr. Forgetful decided to walk down to the village to buy a stamp for a letter he'd written 3 weeks ago but had forgotten to post. So off he set. And did he remember to shut the door of Forget-Me-Not Cottage behind him? Of course he didn't. Morning, Mr. Forgetful, said Mrs. Parcel in the village post office. What can I do for you this fine morning? Oh, I'd like... I forgot now, he said. A stamp, suggested Mrs. Parcel, looking at the letter Mr. Forgetful was carrying. Yes, a stamp. Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember not to forget, said Mr. Forgetful. Mrs. Parcel smiled. She was used to Mr. Forgetful. Mr. Forgetful had some more shopping to do, but could he remember what it was that he was supposed to remember not to forget to shop for? Of course he couldn't. So he decided to go home. On his way, he met the village policeman going the other way. Morning, Mr. Forgetful, said the policeman. Will you give Farmer Fields a message from me on your way home, please? Farmer Fields had a farm not very far from Forget-Me-Not Cottage. Tell him there's a sheep loose in the lane, said the policeman. Poor Mr. Forgetful. He'd never had a message to remember in his life before. There's a sheep loose in the lane, he said to himself, trying to remember the message as he hurried along. There's a sheep loose in the lane. 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 Mr. Forgetful repeated the message over and over to himself. Eventually, he arrived at the farm and found Farmer Fields. "Mr. Fields," he said, there's a goose asleep in the rain." Farmer Fields couldn't believe his ears. "The goose asleep in the rain?" repeated Farmer Fields slowly. "But I don't have any geese. And anyway, it isn't raining." "You sure that was the message?" Poor Mr. Forgetful. He got it all wrong. And he couldn't remember how to get it all right. Simply couldn't remember at all. So off he went home. Poor Mr. Forgetful. Mr. Forgetful walked away from Farmer Fields' farm, feeling very sorry for himself. "I do wish I could remember things," he thought. He was so busy feeling sorry for himself that he didn't see that there was a sheep loose in the lane. He bumped into it and fell over. "Bother!" "Bah! How silly, letting a sheep loose in the lane," thought Mr. Forgetful. And then he remembered the message. He jumped up and ran back along the lane to the farm as fast as he could. "Mr. Fields! Mr. Fields!" called as he ran into the farmyard. "Mr. Fields, there's a goose asleep in the rain." He'd forgotten again. Mr. Fields scratched his head. "Come with me. Come on," cried Mr. Forgetful, and pulled Farmer Fields back along the lane until they came to the sheep that was loose. "There it is," cried Mr. Forgetful. A goose." And then he stopped. "Oh dear," he said, "am I? No, it's not a goose, is it? That's a sheep." He blushed. "I think," smiled Farmer Fields, "that you're the goose." And he chuckled. Even the sheep started to laugh. It was so funny. Later that day, Mr. Forgetful sat down in his favourite armchair in Forget-Me-Not Cottage to think about what a funny day it had been. And he giggled and giggled the more he thought about that goose asleep in that goose asleep in the train. Oh dear. He'd forgotten again. Mr. Funny lived in a teapot. It had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room, and it suited Mr. Funny very nicely. One day, Mr. Funny was having lunch. He wasn't very hungry, so he only had a daisy sandwich and a glass of toast. "Delicious," he murmured to himself as he finished his funny lunch. After lunch, Mr. Funny decided to go for a drive in his car. Mr. Funny's car was a shoe. Have you ever seen a car that looks like a shoe? It looks very funny. As he drove along, everybody who saw him laughed to see such a funny sight. He passed a worm at the side of the road. The worm thought Mr. Funny in his funny car was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. He nearly laughed himself in two. He passed a pig in a field. The pig thought Mr. Funny in his funny car was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. She nearly laughed her tail off. Even the flowers he passed thought that Mr. Funny was the funniest thing that they'd ever seen. They nearly laughed themselves out of the ground. Eventually, Mr. Funny came to some crossroads. He didn't know which way to go, so he looked at the signpost. One of the signs said, "To the zoo." "Oh, that'd be fun," thought Mr. Funny to himself. So he drove his shoe towards the zoo. When he arrived at the gate of the zoo, he stopped. It was closed. "I'm sorry," said the zookeeper. "But we had to close the zoo because all the animals have a cold. And they're all feeling very sorry for themselves." "Oh, dear," said Mr. Funny. And then he thought. "Perhaps I could help to cheer them up," he said. "Well," said the zookeeper, "worth a try, I suppose." And he opened the gate. Mr. Funny drove into the zoo in his shoes. First thing he saw was an elephant. It was true. The elephant was feeling very sorry for herself. Very sorry indeed. Mr. Funny stood and looked at the sad-looking elephant. And the sad-looking elephant stood and looked at Mr. Funny. Oh, dear. Then, do you know what Mr. Funny did? He pulled a funny face. Mr. Funny, as you can imagine, is very good at pulling funny faces. The elephant giggled. He'd never seen anything so funny. Mr. Funny pulled another funny face. And the elephant burst out laughing. The elephant laughed and laughed and laughed. Oh, she laughed so hard, she nearly laughed her trunk off. Oh, and she felt a lot better. Mr. Funny went over to the lion house. There was a lion, feeling extraordinarily sorry for himself. Mr. Funny stood and looked at the sad-looking lion, and the sad-looking lion stood and looked at Mr. Funny. Oh, dear. And then Mr. Funny pulled the funniest-looking face that's probably ever been pulled anywhere, ever. Now, you've heard a lion roar before, haven't you? Well, this lion roared, too, with laughter. He laughed so hard, he nearly laughed his whiskers to pieces. And then Mr. Funny went round to see all the other animals in the zoo. Oh, dear. What a miserable-looking lot. For all of them, Mr. Funny pulled funnier and funnier faces. The big brown pig giggled, then burst out laughing, and the giraffe laughed so hard she nearly laughed her neck into a knot. Into a knot. And the hippopotamus nearly laughed himself out of his skin, and the penguins nearly laughed their flippers floppy. The leopard. You should have seen him. He laughed so hard, he nearly laughed his spots off. His spots off. Oh, what a pandemonium. Oh, Mr. Funny, giggled the zookeeper, who'd started laughing as well. Oh, Mr. Funny, thank you very, very much indeed, sir, for coming to cheer us all up. Oh, nothing really, replied Mr. Funny modestly, and drove off in his shoe. Later, when Mr. Funny arrived home, he chuckled to himself. Well, he said, well, that's the end of another funny day. And he parked his shoe and went inside his teapot. And because he was feeling thirsty, he made himself a nice hot cup of cake.
This is the sad story of Mr. Bump. The trouble was that Mr. Bump just could not help having little accidents. If there was something for Mr. Bump to bump into, he'd bump into it all right. For instance, if you were to see Mr. Bump walking down the street in your town, and if there happened to be something to bump into down that street, then you know what would happen, don't you? Bump. Mr. Bump was just the same at home. He lived in an extremely nice home. But even there, he couldn't help having those little accidents. For instance, one morning when Mr. Bump went outside his house, he noticed that the chimney pot had come loose in a storm the night before. I must fix that before it falls off, thought Mr. Bump to himself. And he hurried off to his garden shed to fetch a ladder. It was a very long ladder. Mr. Bump walked up the garden path with the ladder on his shoulder. He turned the corner of the garden path. Crash went the living room window. Oh, dear, thought Mr. Bump. And he turned to see what had happened. Crash went the kitchen window behind him. Oh, dear, thought Mr. Bump again. And he rested the ladder against the wall of the house so that he could climb up onto the roof to mend the chimney pot. Crash went the bedroom window. So you can see how Mr. Bump had his little accidents. Mr. Bump had had many jobs, but somehow they never seemed to last very long. As soon as anything got lost, or broken, or splintered, or chipped, or snapped, or cracked, or torn, or burst, or wrenched, or crunched, or split, or slit, guess who got the blame? For instance, when Mr. Bump worked on a farm. He tripped over the farm dog and spilt the milk. And the farm cat lapped it up. For instance, when Mr. Bump was a postman, he got his hand stuck in the pillar box. They had to fetch the fire brigade to come and set him free. For instance, when Mr. Bump was a carpenter, he found that when he was hammering nails, he hammered his thumb most of the time, and the nail hardly at all. In order to recover from this series of rather unfortunate happenings, Mr. Bump decided to go away for a holiday. There, he could think about what sort of job he could do where he wouldn't be such a nuisance to everybody. So he set off to the station to catch a train to the seaside. While Mr. Bump was on holiday, several things happened. For instance, he fell off a boat into the sea, and the lifeboat had to come and rescue him. For instance, one day when he was quietly walking along the beach, minding his own business, he got his foot stuck in a bucket. And as he couldn't get it off, he had to hop round with it on his foot for hours. And as he hopped along the beach, he hopped straight into a large hole that somebody had dug. And he had to stay there all night because he couldn't climb out on his own. However, despite all these little accidents, Mr. Bump enjoyed his holiday. And while he was there, he had a splendid idea about what sort of a job he should do. It was quite the best idea Mr. Bump had ever had. An absolutely splendid idea. And now, Mr. Bump works happily for Mr. Barley, the farmer. Mr. Barley has rather a large apple orchard on his farm, and that's where Mr. Bump works. Mr. Bump's job is picking apples. But he doesn't use a ladder to climb up the tree to pick the apples, like other apple pickers. Oh, no. No, Mr. Bump has a much better way of picking apples than that. He just walks about. And before long, Mr. Bump, being Mr. Bump, walks into a tree. Down falls an apple. And Mr. Bump catches it. This makes the job of picking apples much easier. Mr. Bump is very pleased about his new job, and Mr. Barley is very pleased about his new apple picker. So, you see, the story of Mr. Bump isn't such a sad story after all, is it? Ooh, ooh. It was a warm, sunny morning. In his small house at the other side of the wood, Mr. Tickle was asleep. You didn't know that there was such a thing as a tickle, did you? Well, there is. Tickles are small and round, and they have arms that stretch and stretch and stretch. Extraordinarily long arms. Mr. Tickle was fast asleep. He was having a dream. It must have been a very funny dream, because it made him laugh out loud. And that woke him up. He sat up in bed, stretched his extraordinarily long arms, and yawned an enormous yawn. Mr. Tickle felt hungry, so do you know what he did? He reached out one of his extraordinarily long arms, opened the bedroom door, reached down the stairs, opened the kitchen door, reached into the kitchen cupboard, opened the biscuit tin, took out a biscuit, brought it back upstairs, and back to Mr. Tickle. As you can see, it's very useful indeed, having arms as long as Mr. Tickle's. Mr. Tickle munched his biscuit. He looked out of the window. Today looks very much like a tickling day, he thought to himself. So, later that morning, after Mr. Tickle had made his bed and cooked his breakfast, he set off through the wood. As he walked along, he kept his eyes very wide open.
looking for somebody to tickle, looking for anybody to tickle. Eventually, Mr. Tickle came to a school. There was nobody about, so, reaching up his extraordinarily long arms to a high window ledge, Mr. Tickle pulled himself up and peeked in through the open window. Inside, he could see a classroom. There were children sitting at their desks and a teacher writing on the blackboard. Mr. Tickle reached in through the window with that extraordinarily long arm of his, went up behind a little boy called Peter, and tickled him on the back of his neck. Peter giggled out loud. "Stop that giggling at once," said the teacher sternly. Mr. Tickle waited a minute, then reached in through the window again. Mr. Tickle's extraordinarily long arm went right up to the teacher, paused, and then tickled. The teacher jumped in the air and turned round very quickly to see who was there. But there was nobody there. Mr. Tickle grinned, a mischievous grin. He waited another minute and then tickled the teacher again. This time he kept on tickling, until soon the teacher was laughing out loud and saying, "Oh, stop it! Stop it! Oh, no, stop it!" over and over and over again. All the children were laughing too at such a funny sight. There was a terrible pandemonium. Eventually, Mr. Tickle thought he'd had enough fun. So he gave the teacher one more tickle for luck, and then very quietly brought his arm back through the open window. Chuckling to himself, he jumped down from the window, leaving the poor teacher to explain what it was all about, which of course he couldn't. Then Mr. Tickle went to town. And what a day Mr. Tickle had. He tickled the policeman on traffic duty at the crossroads in the middle of the town. It caused an enormous traffic jam. He tickled the greengrocer just as he was piling apples neatly in his shop window. The greengrocer fell over backwards, and the apples rolled all over the shop. There were apples everywhere. At the railway station, the guard was about to wave his flag for the train to leave. As he lifted his arm in the air, Mr. Tickle tickled him. And every time he tried to wave his flag, Mr. Tickle tickled him. And tickled him again. Until the train was 10 minutes late, and all the passengers were absolutely furious. That day, Mr. Tickle tickled everybody. He tickled the doctor. He tickled the butcher. He even tickled old Mr. Stamp, the postman, who dropped all his letters into a puddle. Then Mr. Tickle went home. Sitting in his armchair in his small house at the other side of the wood, he laughed and laughed and laughed every time he thought about all the people he'd tickled. Oh, dear. Oh, Mr. Small was very small. He lived in a small house underneath a daisy at the bottom of Mr. Robinson's garden. It was a very nice house, although very tiny, and it suited Mr. Small very well indeed. He liked living there. Now, this story is all about the time Mr. Small decided to get a job. The trouble was, what sort of a job could Mr. Small do? After all, there aren't that many small jobs. Mr. Small had thought about it for a long time, but hadn't had any ideas, not one. He was thinking about it now, while he was having lunch. He was having half a pea, 1 crumb, and a drop of lemonade. Mr. Small thought and thought while he was eating his big lunch, but it was no use. Thinking just made him thirsty. So he had another drop of lemonade. I know, he thought to himself. After lunch, I'll go and see Mr. Robinson and ask his advice. So after lunch, he left his house and walked to Mr. Robinson's house at the top of the garden. It was quite a long walk for somebody as small as Mr. Small, and halfway there he stopped for a rest. He sat on a pebble, feeling quite out of breath. A worm crawled by and stopped. "Good afternoon, Mr. Small," said the worm. "Good afternoon, Walter," said Mr. Small to the worm, whom he knew quite well. "Out for a walk, are you?" asked Walter. "Going to see Mr. Robinson," replied Mr. Small. "Oh," said Walter the worm, and crawled off. Walter was a worm of very few words. After he'd rested for a while, Mr. Small set off again and walked all the rest of the way to Mr. Robinson's house without stopping once. When he got there, he climbed up the steps to Mr. Robinson's back door. He knocked at the door. Nobody heard him. The trouble was, you see, that if you're as small as Mr. Small, you don't have a very loud knock. Mr. Small looked up. There, high above his head, was a doorbell. "How can I ring the bell when I can't reach it?" thought Mr. Small to himself. Just then, Mr. Small heard footsteps. It was the postman. The postman came to the door, posted his letters, and was just about to leave when he heard a voice. "Hello," said the voice. The postman looked down. "Hello," he said to Mr. Small. "Who are you?" "I'm Mr. Small," said Mr. Small. "Will you ring the bell for me?" "Of course I will," replied the postman in answer to Mr. Small's question. And reaching out, he pressed the bell with his finger. "Thank you," said Mr. Small. "My pleasure," said the postman, and off he went. Mr. Small heard footsteps coming to the door. The door opened. Mr. Robinson looked out. "That's funny," he said. "I'm sure I heard somebody ring the bell." He was about to shut the door when he heard a little voice. "Hello," said the voice. "Hello, Mr. Robinson." Mr. Robinson looked down and down. "Hello," he said. "What are you doing here?" "I've come to ask your advice," said Mr. Small to Mr. Robinson. "Well," said Mr. Robinson, "you'd better come in, have a talk." Mr. Small followed Mr. Robinson into the house, and, perched on the arm of Mr. Robinson's favourite chair, he told him how he couldn't think of a job that he could do. Mr. Robinson sipped a cup of tea and listened. "So you see," Mr. Small explained, "how difficult it is." "Yes, yes, I can see that," said Mr. Robinson. "But leave it to me." Mr. Robinson knew a lot of people. Mr. Robinson knew somebody who worked in a restaurant and arranged for Mr. Small to work there, putting mustard into mustard pots. But Mr. Small kept falling into the pots and getting covered in mustard, so he left that job. Mr. Robinson knew somebody who worked in a sweet shop and arranged for Mr. Small to work there, serving sweets. But Mr. Small kept falling into the sweet jars, so he left that job. Mr. Robinson knew somebody who worked in a place where they made matches and arranged for Mr. Small to work there, packing matches into boxes. But Mr. Small kept getting shut in the boxes with the matches, so he left that job. Mr. Robinson knew somebody who worked on a farm and arranged for Mr. Small to work there, sorting out the brown eggs from the white eggs. But Mr. Small kept getting trapped by the eggs, so he left that job. "What are we going to do with you?" Mr. Robinson asked Mr. Small one evening. "Don't know," said Mr. Small in a small voice. "I've got one more idea," said Mr. Robinson. "I know somebody who writes stories for children. Perhaps you could work for him." So the following day, Mr. Robinson took Mr. Small to meet the man who wrote children's stories. "Can I work for you?" Mr. Small asked the man. "Yes, you can," replied the man. "Pass me that pencil and tell me all about the jobs you've been doing. And then I'll write a story about it. I'll call it Mr. Small," he added. "But children won't want to hear a story all about me," exclaimed Mr. Small. "Yes, they will," replied the man. "They'll like it very much. And you did, didn't you?" Mr. Messy was the messiest person you've ever met in your whole life. He looked messy because he was messy in everything he did. You could always tell where Mr. Messy had been because he left a trail of messy fingerprints wherever he'd been. Oh, yes, Mr. Messy was messy by name, messy by nature. Mr. Messy lived in a particularly messy-looking house. Paint was peeling, windows were broken. There were tiles missing from the roof. The flower beds were overgrown with weeds, and the garden gate was off its hinges. And had Mr. Messy cut the grass in his garden lately? He had not. One morning, Mr. Messy woke up in his messy bed, yawned, scratched, got up, cleaned his teeth, leaving the top off the toothpaste, had his breakfast, spilling cornflakes all over the floor, and then set out for a walk, tripping over a brush he'd left lying in the garden 2 weeks before. There was a wood behind Mr. Messy's messy house with the messy garden, and that's where he went for his walk. It was a particularly large wood with lots and lots of trees, and it took Mr. Messy a long time to walk through it. But he didn't really mind because he felt like walking that morning. So he walked right through the wood until he came to the other side. And you know what he found on the other side of the wood? Mr. Messy found the neatest, prettiest-looking little cottage that he had ever seen. It had a lovely little garden with a stream running through the middle of it. There was a man in the garden clipping the hedge. He looked up as Mr. Messy approached. "Morning. I'm Mr. Messy," said Mr. Messy. "I can see that," replied the man, looking up and down. "I'm Mr. Tidy." "And I'm Mr. Neat," said another man, peering out of the house. "Tidy and neat," said Mr. Tidy. "Neat and tidy," said Mr. Neat. We're in business together," explained Mr. Tidy. "And the people who own this house have asked us to do some work for them." "What sort of work?" asked Mr. Messy. "Oh, we make things nice and neat," said Mr. Neat. "Tidy things up," added Mr. Tidy. Perhaps we could come along and do some work for you, said Mr. Neat, looking at Mr. Messy, who was looking even messier than usual that particular morning. But I know one thing is neat and tidy, said Mr. Messy, looking downright miserable at the thought of it. Nonsense, said Mr. Tidy. Fiddlesticks, said Mr. Neat. But, said Mr. Messy. Come along, said Mr. Neat. Off we go, said Mr. Tidy. But, said Mr. Messy. But nothing, said Mr. Neat. And bundling him into their van, which was parked behind the house, off they went to Mr. Messy's house on the other side of the wood. Good heavens, said Mr. Neat, when he saw where Mr. Messy lived. God gracious me, added Mr. Tidy. This is the messiest house I've ever seen in all my born days, they both said together at the same time. Better do something about it, said Mr. Neat. And before Mr. Messy could open his mouth, the two of them were rushing here and there about Mr. Messy's house. Mr. Neat hoed and mowed and pruned and snipped and clipped and cleared and dug and made the garden look neater than it had ever looked before. Mr. Tidy cleaned and primed and rubbed and painted and mended and made the house of Mr. Messy look tidier than it had ever looked before. Then they both went inside the house. Good heavens, said Mr. Neat for the second time that morning. Good gracious, said Mr. Tidy for the second time that morning. And then they set about cleaning the house from top to bottom. They brushed and swept and polished and scrubbed and made the inside of the house look neater and tidier than it had ever looked before. There we are, said Mr. Tidy. All finished, said Mr. Neat. Tidy and neat, said Mr. Tidy. Neat and tidy, said Mr. Neat. Mr. Messy just didn't know what to say. Then they both looked at Mr. Messy. Are you thinking what I'm thinking, Mr. Neat said to Mr. Tidy. Precisely, said Mr. Tidy. What we're both thinking, boy, they said together to Mr. Messy, is that, now the house is so neat and tidy, you are much too messy to live in it. But, said Mr. Messy. But whatever Mr. Messy said was no use, and Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy whisked him off to the bathroom upstairs. It had been the messiest room in the house, but now, of course, it was as bright as a new pin. Then Mr. Neat got hold of one of Mr. Messy's arms, and Mr. Tidy got hold of the other arm, and they picked him up and put him straight into the bath. Mr. Messy wasn't used to having baths. Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy washed, and brushed, and cleaned, and scrubbed, and combed Mr. Messy until he didn't look like Mr. Messy at all. In fact, he looked the opposite of messy. He looked at himself in the mirror. You know what I'm going to have to do now, he said in a rather fierce voice. Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy looked worried. What are you going to have to do? They asked Mr. Messy. I'm going to have to change my name, said Mr. Messy. And they chuckled. And Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy chuckled. And Mr. Messy laughed. And Mr. Neat and Mr. Tidy laughed. And they all laughed together and became the best of friends. Mr. Greedy liked to eat. In fact, Mr. Greedy loved to eat. And the more he ate, the fatter he became. And the trouble was, the fatter he became, the more hungry he became. And the more hungry he became, the more he ate. And the more he ate, the fatter he became, and so it went on. One morning, Mr. Greedy awoke rather earlier than usual. As usual, he'd been dreaming about food, and that made him wake up feeling hungry. So Mr. Greedy got up, went downstairs, and ate the most enormous breakfast. This is what Mr. Greedy had for his breakfast. Toast, 2 slices. Cornflakes, 1 packet. Milk, 1 bottle. Sugar, 1 bowlful. Toast, 3 slices. Eggs, 3 boiled. Toast, 4 slices. Butter, 1 dish. Marmalade, 1 pot. Toast, 6 slices. That was a delicious breakfast. Now, I wonder what would be nice to have for lunch. He decided, in order to work up an appetite for lunch, that he would go for a long walk. That morning, Mr. Greedy walked and walked and walked. Then he discovered a cave. That's funny, he thought. I don't remember seeing that there before. Mr. Greedy, being a curious sort of fellow, decided to explore. He entered the dark cave. Inside, he discovered some giant steps leading upwards. Very, very steep, very difficult to climb, but with much huffing and puffing. Mr. Greedy climbed up and up. At the top of the steps, Mr. Greedy came to a door. It was, without doubt, the biggest door that Mr. Greedy had ever seen, and it wasn't quite shut. So Mr. Greedy squeezed himself through the crack in the door, and there before him was an amazing sight. The biggest room in the world. The floor was as big as a field. The table in the middle of the floor was as big as a house, and the chairs around it were as high as trees. Mr. Greedy felt very small, and then he sniffed. Coming from somewhere up on top of the gigantic table was the most delicious foody smell that Mr. Greedy had ever smelled. Mr. Greedy sniffed again, and then decided that he must get up onto that table. So he began to climb up the leg of the enormous chair. It was very difficult, but eventually Mr. Greedy stood on the table. Everything was larger than life. The salt and pepper pots were both as big as pillar boxes. There was a bowl of fruit on the table, and Mr. Greedy tried to lift one of the oranges. And Mr. Greedy, being Mr. Greedy, took a bite out of one of the apples there. Then he looked around. Over on the other side of the table stood the source of that delicious smell. A huge, enormous, gigantic, colossal plate. And on the plate, huge, enormous, gigantic, colossal sausages the size of pillows. And huge, enormous, gigantic, colossal potatoes the size of beach balls. And huge, enormous, colossal peas the size of cabbages. Mr. Greedy hurried across the table towards the plate, and being Mr. Greedy, began to eat. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the plate, and Mr. Greedy found himself being picked up by a giant hand and looking into the eyes of a real live giant.
And who
Thundered the giant.
are you?
Mr. Greedy was so frightened that he could only just manage to squeak his name. Mr. Greedy, he squeaked. The giant laughed, a laugh as loud as thunder.
Greedy by name and greedy by nature,
He bellowed.
Well, I think, Mr. Greedy, that you need to be taught a lesson.
And what a lesson it was. The giant made Mr. Greedy eat up everything on that huge, enormous, gigantic, colossal plate. When he'd finished, Mr. Greedy felt very ill indeed, as if he would burst at any minute.
"No," said the giant in a much quieter voice. "Do you promise never to be greedy again?"
Oh, yes, moaned Mr. Greedy. I promise.
"Very well," said the giant. "Then I'll let you go." Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Mr. Greedy climbed down from the table and went out through the door, feeling very fat.
And do you know, from that day to this, Mr. Greedy has kept his promise. And you know something else as well. Mr. Greedy doesn't look like he used to look anymore. He now looks like this, which I think suits him a lot better, don't you? So if you know anybody who's as greedy as Mr. Greedy used to be, you know what to tell them, don't you? Beware of giants.
Ho, 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 ho. Ha, 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 ha. Then I'll let you go. Ha, 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 ha.
Achoo! 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 Achoo!
This is Coldland, which is a country somewhere near the North Pole. The weather in Coldland is winter all the time. When it isn't snowing, it's freezing. And when it isn't freezing, it's snowing. So you can imagine how cold it is. Because it's so cold in Coldland, everybody who lives there is cold as well. You can tell if somebody comes from Coldland because everybody there has a red nose. And people in Coldland aren't the only ones with red noses. In Coldland, you can even see red-nosed elephants. And what you hear most of the time in Coldland is a noise that sounds like this.
Achoo!
The sound of the sneeze is very common indeed in Coldland, which is not very surprising, is it? This is the story of Mr. Sneeze, who lived in a small snow-covered cottage in Shivertown, the capital of Coldland. Every morning, Mr. Sneeze woke up, sneezed, got up, sneezed, got dressed, sneezed, went downstairs, sneezed, ate his breakfast, sneezed, and went to work, still sneezing.
Achoo!
I don't like this sneezing all the time,
Achoo!
he thought to himself every day.
Achoo!
Until one day he decided to leave Coldland and try to find a cure for the sneezes.
Achoo! 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 Achoo!
He walked and sneezed and walked his way across Coldland, and then he sneezed and walked and sneezed for days and days until Coldland was far behind. As he walked away from Coldland, he noticed that there was less and less snow. And eventually, he walked so far that there was no snow at all. And as he walked, he noticed something else. He wasn't walking and sneezing. He was walking and walking. For the first time in his life, he wasn't sneezing. Not at all, not a bit, not even the tiniest tissue. I wonder why I'm not sneezing, he thought to himself. But he must have thought his thought out loud to himself, because a voice behind him replied, "You're not sneezing because you haven't got a cold." Mr. Sneeze jumped, turned,
And there behind him stood a wise old wizard.
What's a cold?
Asked Mr. Sneeze.
A cold is what you catch when you're too cold,
Said the wise old wizard wisely.
Oh,
Said Mr. Sneeze.
but I come from a country called Cold Land, where everybody's too cold all the time.
Nonsense, snorted the wizard.
Can't be too cold all the time, because of the sun.
And he pointed to the sun, which was smiling in the sky.
But we don't have any sun in Cold Land.
Said Mr. Sneeze.
No sun?
Exclaimed the wizard.
How extremely, extraordinarily extraordinary. We'd better do something about that, then. Hadn't we?
Yes, agreed Mr. Sneeze, not quite knowing what the wizard was talking about.
How far away is this place called, what is it? Cold Land?
Asked the wizard.
Oh, it's miles and miles and miles away.
Replied Mr. Sneeze.
In which direction?
Asked the wizard. Mr. Sneeze pointed.
Oh, it shouldn't take long.
Said the wizard, who then waved his wand and muttered some magic words, which wouldn't be magic if you knew what they were. Whatever those magic words were, they worked. Before you could say sneeze, both the wizard and Mr. Sneeze were transported to Shivertown, which you will remember is the capital of Cold Land. As usual, it was snowing.
I say, this is a cold, gloomy place.
Said the wizard. Replied Mr. Sneeze, who'd started sneezing again.
Cold Land certainly needs some sunshine,
Said the wizard.
That's going to take some rather special magic. Please hurry up,
Said Mr. Sneeze, who was rapidly turning into a snowman.
Now,
Said the wizard, ignoring him.
I'm going to say some magic words, and I want you to sneeze 3 times immediately afterwards.
The wise old wizard then held up his magic wand and muttered some magic words, which again wouldn't be magic if you knew what they were. Sneezed Mr. Sneeze. Then quite suddenly, as if by magic, which indeed it was, the sun came out from behind the big black clouds, and it stopped snowing.
There now,
Said the wizard.
that should stop the sneezing.
And then, after muttering some more magic words, and without waiting even to say goodbye, he disappeared. Mr. Sneeze just stood there in the sunshine, watching the snow begin to melt. After that, the sun shone every day, and today Cold Land isn't anything like it used to be. You can't see red-nosed dogs chasing red-nosed cats chasing red-nosed mice anymore. And these days, the sound of the sneeze is a very uncommon sound indeed. And even Mr. Sneeze doesn't sneeze anymore. And that isn't the only thing different about Mr. Sneeze, as he discovered himself when he looked in the mirror one morning. Can you see what was different about Mr. Sneeze?